you all today. This has been a long time coming, so it's just wonderful to see all your faces. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Gara Hesse. I'm a Senior Program Officer at the Colorado Health Foundation, and I have been working with Alexis Waitman, who I'm sure you all know and have met, on this work. So this work initiated through our policy team, where Alexis is organizationally and now thrilled that food access and security has been officially identified as a key funding priority for the Colorado Health Foundation. So I know there were a ton of materials that were sent out with blueprint overview documents and all of that stuff. So hopefully you've had a chance to review that. But I wanted to just share a little bit of the journey, which I think many, if not all of you, have a pretty good sense and participated in that process. And I have my notes because I actually was not involved from the beginning. Like I said, this came out of our policy team. And so wanting to make sure I have all the good talking points for the journey of this work. So at the Colorado Health Foundation, our vision is that we want to bring health within reach for all Coloradans. So about 3 years ago, Karen McNeil-Miller came on board as our new CEO, and one of the first things that she did in her role was to do a statewide listening tour, where she spent 6 months touring all over the state, talking with folks from all 64 counties, and really asking them. She had, essentially 3 questions. What are your assets to health? What are your barriers? And sort of what else should we know as a foundation? And so what came out of that was a reaffirmation that we should still focus on things like physical activity, health coverage, health care. But what also came out was this need to support food access and security and hunger. So we started having internal conversations about how we could have a greater impact in this space. And the policy team ended up sort of taking the lead in that and thinking, how can we have impact? And commissioned research in the fall of 2016, research and analysis to really look at where we can make improvements in the space and where we can have greater impact. So what came out of that was really a need for the state to have a shared vision and to better coordinate the work that's happening across Colorado. So there are amazing organizations doing really important work, but we really saw that there needed to be more coordination and alignment of that work. So in the spring of 2017, we pulled together other philanthropic organizations and food and security organizations and had a conversation about what that might look like. And out of that came the idea for the blueprint. So that was where that idea arose out of. And really the support and enthusiasm for that idea was very, very positive. So we were excited. We pulled together a large group of stakeholders, around 100, and out of that came a steering committee of 37 organizations from sort of across the spectrum: advocacy, healthcare leaders, subject matter experts, state government, the governor's office, et cetera, other foundations, and really started doing the hard work of developing the blueprint. So in January of 2018, we officially launched it, and I think, are there copies available somewhere? Oh, back there, great. You all have it, I'm sure, but in case you want to reference it, there are copies there in the back, and it really sets our true north for how we want to engage in this work. It's intended to galvanize efforts, to catalyze leadership, to spark policy conversations, and then also to to inform funding decisions. So selfishly, as a foundation, so the vision of the blueprint is that all Coloradans have access to affordable and healthy food in their communities. And this really means that no matter where you live, you have access to nutritious food and resources. Put another way, it should, we want to make sure that where you live in the state does not dictate whether or not you have access to these food resources. So the blueprint has 5 goals. We won't spend a ton of time on that. I think you're probably quite familiar with that, and it's also in the material that was sent out before. But we have spent, so it was released in January. It is now December. And we're thrilled to get these work groups going, but there have been things that have been going on and progress that has been made between January and December of right now. So In the 2018 legislative session, Senate Bill 13 was passed, which eliminates the parental copay for reduced price meals for students through through 8th grade. And so that was a recommendation that specifically came out of the blueprint. In June, the State Board of Human Services increased the eligibility threshold from 130% to 200%. That is specifically called out in the blueprint as a strategy, so that is fantastic. I should sort of beep. We're good? Okay. In August, the Colorado Health Foundation approved matching dollars so that the state could draw down federal funding to support SNAP outreach and enrollment. So that essentially is providing nearly triple the amount of dollars for that service in the state. So that was a huge boon, and that work is just getting started. We did award, we have folks from CDE here, we awarded a 12-month planning grant to CDE to really take a look at Goal 5 and pull together a plan for how Goal 5 would be implemented, specifically around participation in child nutrition programs. So we'll hear from Carrie and the team a little bit later in terms of how that work is going and what's planned. In November, Governor Hickenlooper issued a proclamation recognizing National Homelessness and Hunger Awareness Week in Colorado is November 12th through 16th. So that's really exciting. And then in November, we were pleasantly surprised that Ordinance 302 passed. It's to increase Denver sales tax to form a funding pool of up to $11 million per year for over 9 years, specifically focused on addressing hunger in the city and county of Denver, which is obviously very focused on this sort of metro area, but will have huge implications for this community. So as we pivot to implementation, really excited about that, started thinking about what is the best way, what would be the best approach to make the blueprint a reality. So there were conversations with the steering committee in terms of what the characteristics would be for a structure to implement the blueprint to end hunger. So some of the things that came out were really wanting it to be inclusive, to have shared leadership, to have it be there be true collaboration and broad-based participation, and really that it not be owned by a single agency. So Alexis and I spent a bit of time looking at different models that could be effective. So we explored that for a couple of months, and what really rose to the top was to create a program office, which is something that the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation commonly uses across the U.S., and it really seemed like a structure that would be beneficial for this work. So just wanting to highlight that we're really seeing this. This is a 5-year blueprint, right? So this is not a new nonprofit. This is a time-limited construct to really have an intentional focus over these next 5 years to implement the strategies outlined in the blueprint. And we did this in partnership with Kaiser Permanente. I failed to mention that. So I'm really excited to have that funder at the table, and we continue to have conversations with other funders, both in Colorado and nationally, to try and build a broader base of funders that are interested and engaged in this work. So Trailhead Institute was selected as the administrative home for the program office, really providing those back office supports and opportunities, particularly around pooling funding. So hopefully we can, draw those additional funders to the table and have some funding available for the work. We will eventually hire dedicated blueprint staff that will be specifically focused on the work. The governing council will be meeting next week, week after next. Yep. And that will be one of their first tasks will be to think through the positions and lead that hiring process. So the program office itself will be accountable for outcomes, strategies, and action plans that are approved by the governing council, coordinating activities for implementing the blueprint, et cetera. So the structure of it, we have 4 goal-focused work groups. So we have one work group that's focused on goal 1 of the blueprint, which is around kind of public will building and communications. One work group that's focused on goals 2 and 3, which are around sort of community supports related to food access and insecurity. One work group focused on goal 4, which is participation in SNAP and WIC, and then 05, while we're here today, a focus on participation in child nutrition programs. We have a 15-member, governing council that we have seated, and like I said, they'll be meeting the week after next, and then we will continue to engage the broader network, those 100 organizations or so that came, making sure that folks are connected and up to date. So today, this work group and the other three are really where the work is going to be happening for Blueprint implementation. Really, this is an important milestone. We're thrilled to have these groups getting started. We want to stress that the Health Foundation, although I'm standing up here giving the introduction and help to arrange these meetings, we really see ourselves as a partner in this work. We don't see we're not leading this work. You all are leading this work. This is where the hard work will happen and decisions will be made. And it's a work in progress. So we want your honest feedback on how we can best use our time and energy. So all that being said, I wanted to introduce a few people in the room. You just were hearing from Cindy Willard. She's been our fearless facilitator and leader with the Blueprint Steering Committee, as well as helping to get these work groups and the governing council set up. Michelle Ames is back there, our communications consultant. She is responsible for our beautiful blueprint and will be assisting with social media, with graphic design, with all of sort of our communication needs. Courtney Fulkmere is back there with Trailhead. She's our lead at Trailhead and is really going to be instrumental in coordinating all of meeting logistics and keeping us moving in a good and positive direction. And then lastly, Khadijah Haynes, who's been extremely helpful, and her team, and I haven't met you officially yet, so we'll have to meet later, to really think through how we include and embed community engagement up front in our work and really keep a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion in this effort. So I think without further ado, Khadijah, I'm turning it over to you, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Do we have folks on the phone?
We do. We have about
5 or 6 folks on the phone. Wonderful, thank you. Good morning again. I will get over in a place where people on the phone can see me. Yeah. So hello to people on the phone. We're glad you're joining us. So and thank you for the wonderful introduction. My firm is K Solutions, and we have been working with the Blueprint to help ensure that we include equity and diversity and inclusivity in the process. We are dealing with vulnerable populations when you're talking about people who are hungry, and so it's very important that as we address this work, we meet people where they are, and that was the role of my team to come in and help do some training and then to participate in these work groups to help be the translators of a different sort to help make sure that people are being heard in a way that they can offer good information to our process. So right now I'm going to, first of all, let me introduce folks from my team who are here this morning, Mr. Quan Atlas and Halisi Benson. And each of the folks on my team, it is a team of consultants, and we bring in the best in the areas that we are working in. So you all are treated with some of the best that we have to offer for this process from our team. We can talk a little bit about meeting norms this morning, just going over everything that you learned in kindergarten. And so we'll just revisit that for a minute. Except for the one to stop, look, and listen. Since we're just in one room, we don't have to cross streets today. But I would ask, what's that?
Or hold hands.
Or hold, yes, but you might need to pair up and keep in touch with your partner. So we'd like for you to listen. Listen actively. Listening actively mostly means looking at someone. And looking them in the eye and helping by body language acknowledge that you are hearing what they are saying. To be present. It is very hard in our modern life to actually be present because while we are here, our calendar is reminding us of something, and 6 people have now texted us in the last 15 minutes about what we didn't do or what we're going to do when we're done being here. So it's hard to be present, but we would ask you to really be present, to share airtime. Very, very hard for people who are verbal because you process while you're talking. Other people do not. I've learned that in my own house. I am the only one who processes verbally in my house, and when I get to going, everyone leaves. So I'm learning to just say a thing and then be patient. Wait for them to finally say something back to me. So share your time, share the airtime, speak your truth. That is really hard because we also have been hurt by speaking our truth in our lives. You say something and somebody gets offended, and then all of a sudden you want to walk back everything, even the point that you were trying to make, and that really isn't what you should be doing. You might need to walk back their understanding, but not your point. And so with that in mind, when people are in a room speaking their truth, we also want to make sure that we take time to go back to that first one, listen actively, and really try to be present so that you can determine what it is they were trying to say. Be brief, but meaningful. I don't know that I've just now accomplished that, but we can try to be brief and meaningful, and then, as always, turn off your phones and your laptops if you are able, and we'll come back and do a little bit more group dynamics in a minute, but that was just some norming for us this morning. And back to Cindy. Oh, a couple of things, I'm sorry, and I don't know if you were going to cover them, but on your desk, on the tables are these little things. If it is green, you are being heard by the people who are listening in. And if you don't want to be heard because you're having
We lost audio on the phones.
My name is Indira Guzman, and I'm with the Community Language Co-op, and I'm here to offer interpretation. So if anybody needs it, let me know. I'll be here. No, wait a few minutes to make sure if anybody needs it. Thank you.
Thanks. We're going to talk just briefly here about some of the structures that we have drafted and put in place at this point to help facilitate our work. So a couple of the things that were sent to you in advance and are in your packets this morning, I want to just touch base on briefly. We have some information on the communications infrastructure that we sent out, just so you all know how the Blueprint in general will be communicating both internally and externally, and how we will facilitate the communication of this group. So we have external communication, and Michelle is going to continue to be our communication guru for the foreseeable future. We will be, we meaning Michelle, will be putting together a newsletter that will go out broadly to folks to let everyone know this work has started, how it's coming together, the updates on the great things that are happening already, keeping folks in the loop about the Blueprint in general. She's also helping us support our external social media work, so we have some information here. There's information on the website. You can follow the sites that we have and help us continue to promote the Blueprint through your network as well. Internally, we're working to be as transparent as we can be. So those meeting minutes for the work groups, for the governing council, for all of the work that happens in conjunction with the Blueprint will be made available to everyone. So if you're interested in what Work Group 1 is doing around combating stigma around hunger and food insecurity in the state, you're always welcome to go and check out those notes. As we see areas where there is some some synergy between projects, we may ask you to read the notes from another team or those kinds of things, but all of that is available to you. The governing council notes will be available to you as those folks think about selecting and bringing on the staff for this, thinking about what the evaluation looks like, rolling up policy pieces that I guess will surface from all of the groups. All of that will be available to you as well. We are going to have a section on the website. If you haven't been to the website, I encourage you to go to it and check it out, share that with family and friends, coworkers. We're going to have a section on the website as well. Are there any quick questions about communications? We just want you to know that there is communication support and infrastructure to support all of this work. If you had any questions or anything you wanted to touch base on this morning in terms of communication infrastructure.
Just one quick thing. There is a section now up on the website where we've started to make a home for all of the work group activity that's already occurred in the last week or so. So I will ask if you notice things that aren't up there that you think need to be up there, specifically from the work of this work group that you want to make sure is publicly available, and I haven't for some reason posted it, please let me know and I'll make sure it's up. It's intended to be an archive.
This is Stephanie for folks on the phone. Do we need to fill this out if we're already receiving like the information, or is it just okay?
Yep. We let's touch base on that now. There is a form that has information on both on how we can best contact you and then what support we can provide in order to make these meetings possible and accessible for you. So before you leave today, we'll give you 5 minutes at the end at a minimum to do that, but please fill out that document and help us know again what's the best way to be in touch with you, your contact information, and then if support will help you access these groups, we're happy to provide that as well. If you are interested in accessing the stipends and the monetary support, we will need a W-9 for you just for tax filing purposes. So we would like to gather both of those items today before you leave. Great. So the other piece I would like to touch base briefly on is the document that has some of the work group membership roles and responsibilities on it. We wanted to touch base on this briefly, just to set, again, that the baseline expectations help us understand how we'll work well together. When the blueprint was developed, as Sarah mentioned, we had a goal, and then under each goal there were sort of top priorities, and we're going to get to that here shortly. On the back of that document, we have a little bit about the expectations and the responsibilities of folks. I just want to run through these quickly to say that we hope your participation will be regular and consistent in this group, but this is not a closed group. So as we move the work forward and as you think about the different things we're working on and our priorities, if there are other folks who would benefit this group and who this work would benefit, we would love to have those folks come to the table. We hope that you will also consistently participate, but we want to be sure that we're bringing in folks. This is not sort of a closed group. This is an opt-in group. It's not any sort of selection criteria other than interest and activity in the space. So as we move forward, if there are other folks who want to bring to the table, let's be sure we do that. We expect to meet monthly, at least at the beginning, and depending on how the work ends up bucketing out, we may have subgroups that meet at different times, or the timing may adjust, but at least for probably the next 3 or 4 months, we hope there'll be a monthly meeting as we continue to get this work underway. We are going to send out another poll to try to figure out what that consistent timing is, to get these on your calendars and also in different meeting places so that we can have a little bit more advanced notice on that and hope to encourage folks to be able to participate. Are there any questions on the responsibilities and expectations as you look at this? We want this to be accessible and not be a burden for folks, but again, that regular participation will be helpful as we move this work forward. But I just want to see if there are any questions on responsibilities and expectations, and then I want to touch a little bit on leadership. Anybody on the phone with a question or a comment on the responsibilities and expectations? Okay, hearing none, we'll move forward. If you have thoughts about this in the interim between now and the next meeting, you're welcome to get in touch with us and let us know. Cindy? Yeah. Were there questions that came up in the other 2 meetings? No. Okay. There's none. You know, again, we've tried to keep it just pretty straightforward. We want your expertise, your good thinking. You know, we'd love you to participate as fully as you can. It's really the general summary. thinking about the expectations of this group. What we would also like to have is some leadership for these work groups. So someone to be a chair or potentially co-chairs for each group. What that would involve is helping the eventual implementation director think about agendas, think about how to best coordinate either between work groups or within work groups, to help think about how to move forward or who else we need at the table. So we don't see this as a huge lift, but a little bit of extra work in between meetings, again, to think about the agendas, how we guide this work, all of those pieces. So I want to bring that up now so that you can start thinking about whether that's an opportunity that might be of interest to you, or whether or not you think someone else in the group would be great for that role. We'll touch base a little bit before we conclude today, and then hopefully at the next meeting we'll be able to establish that chair or co-chair for the work group and have that help propel the work forward as well. The decision-making model that we used in developing the blueprint and getting us to this place today was really based around consensus. So we wanted to help folks surface ideas, challenges, opportunities, and then help the group work toward a place where folks were comfortable and or excited, but not actively opposed to what we were moving forward. So as I think about consensus, even if you weren't super excited about something, it's something that you can live with and support on some level. And so we're always working to get to that place. What we have tried hard to avoid, and I think we will continue to do that in these groups, is the idea of voting up or down on something, which I think can create some tension and potentially some division. So we will work through as best we can through facilitation and small group discussions and all kinds of ways to gather input to get to that place of consensus as we move this work forward. And so we just wanted to sort of set that level for folks that that's what we're going to be working towards as we move all of this forward. Are there any questions on the leadership or the decision-making piece that we just talked about? Or thoughts that you've had in working with groups like this that have worked well? Okay. Hearing nothing, I will turn it back over to Khadijah. We're going to do a little activity on how we learn and work together, and then we're going to get into the prioritization of our work together.
So nearby you should have a packet. If you don't have one, let me know and I will get one to you. I'm appreciating seeing the Play-Doh being used. So good points for anyone who's using their Play-Doh, since I insisted that there be Play-Doh. So in your packet, there is a card that has Blueprint on one side and 3 questions on the other. And when we break into a small group, and I think we'll probably move some of the furniture around a little bit, we will address these 3 questions. But I want to move on to the other cards, and this sort of dovetails on what I had talked about before. You have 4 cards. There's one that's listening, one that says reading, writing or doing, and watching. And these are both learning styles and participation styles. So when you are working on trying to understand each other in a group, sometimes it's good to understand how people are. For me, I prefer watching and doing. Show me and I've got it. Show me one time and I've pretty much got it. But other people, particularly policy people, they would prefer a library and to be quiet and go through their library and they come back brilliant. So as you are working in your work groups, you might want to have an opportunity to just share with your group where you're at today. We have a style that we're sort of born with, but our styles can move depending on what happens during the day, what happened with the last 3 texts that you just got in the last 10 minutes. And so as you move through your meetings, it may be good to remind yourself or to check in on others. Are they with you? Are you paying attention to their learning style? This last one is a really, really important one, and it is about affirmations. we hope that the work of all of these work groups is to come up with ideas, with solutions, and with possibilities. And creativity from someone may not look the same way as it looks from you, but to be present and to acknowledge that you heard what someone said and to encourage their further participation and wanting to give, it's always a great idea to respond to someone's brilliant suggestion with yes. And we could also, so often, and I will speak in some stereotypical terms, a lot of times older people, they're really good at saying, hey, we tried that 3 years ago. Okay, well, everything was different 3 years ago. And when you put someone already in a, I've dismissed your idea, then doesn't leave room for them to come back and want to give you something. So we want to just squeeze every bit of juice that you have into this process, and one of the ways to do that is encourage you to share, to give us every bit of juice that you have and from your coworkers. So love for you to remember more than anything else, yes. And we could also, and then there's your opportunity to share your brilliance with the rest of the group. I think, are we going to just work kind of where we are? Maybe you want to work, pull the team physically together? Okay, so I'll let you.
So what we're moving into now is we're going to take a look at the sort of broad strategy aims that were set out in the blueprint. We've gotten them on some flip chart paper, and we've got some docs available for you. So while we're getting that ready, because we're going to everyone's going to get 3 docs, and folks on the phone, we will touch base with you and get your 3 top priorities so we can make sure we capture all the votes, just to get a sense of where the momentum and energy and interest of this group is with those strategies, but because it's going to be hard to tackle on the other group 7 things at once. We're going to try to think through where's the energy, where are some things that we can leverage, and where's the momentum happening now, and then eventually we'll get to a place where what else is it that we need to build. So while we're getting our sheets up with those items, I'd like you to turn to someone next to you and answer question 1. So in pairs, and on the phone, we can put you folks on the phone in a group. And the first question, just so you can chat with a friend next to you, is where are you from, and why is that important to our work around ending hunger in Colorado? So take just a minute and do that, and we're going to get our voting set up, and then it's going to be your turn to vote.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Never went with that.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
We can hear you. Yeah, me too.
Oh, really? So, yeah, so I was really lucky in front of their road. Oh. Yeah. I know. Everywhere. Okay, yeah. In our program. Come out with these huge places. I'm so like carry hours. I want to be on I always get working with Molly. Molly is. Yeah. Like outside, like everything. Oh, like were you looking for? So we're going to bring it back to the large group here in just a second, so you can finish your our conversation. Yeah. Okay. Our folks on the phone are joining back in with us. Khadijah wanted to add one other quick piece before we move on to our prioritizing our work.
Thank you very much. Yes, this is actually an important piece when you are working with diverse audiences. In on your question sheet, you'll notice that the first question is, where are you from and why is that important? It's a great question to ask when you begin a work group. Among communities of color and women and other folks who tend to be disenfranchised more than others, something immediately happens at the beginning of a work group, and it's called credentialing. And you prove your worth to be in the meeting. So when we go around and we ask what's your name and tell us something about yourself, for a lot of people you will see that they begin to tell you all of the education that they have, the experience that they have, and to prove, if you will, their worth and value in a group. That comes from being disenfranchised and a need to validate the fact that you're in the room. And whatever it is that you have to offer is worth something because you've done something to give you stature. So if, as you are working and going forward in the work of the work group, you find someone who does that or will repeat that, understand that that is not coming from an egocentric place. It is most often really trying to credential themselves so that you will take the time to listen and value what they say. So these questions are really good openers for working in groups and to help people understand that you are credentialed by the fact that you are in the room. And from the Blueprint standpoint, we believe that. You are in the room and you have value and you bring something wonderful to our group. If you would like to credential yourself, you may, but it is not necessary to be heard in our working time together.
Great. So this is a great time, I think, for us to go around and have everyone just say who they are. And we're going to make sure we do that for folks on the phone as well. So we'll start. So Cindy Willard, I've been working with Blueprint for some time and really glad to be here with you all today.
Dara Hesse with the Colorado Health Foundation.
Patty Velasquez with Family Resource Center Association. Lacey Benson, consultant.
Khadijah Haynes, I have a BA in
Consultant.
Kevin Morgan, I'm a Trailhead Institute.
Kelly, I provide communication support for Blueprint.
Quantum with IDEA.
And you're in the field team.
I'm Stephanie Pedescadillo with the Children's.
Hi, I'm Amanda Mercer, a supervisor at the Colorado Department of Education School Nutrition Unit.
I'm Naomi Stunson. I'm from the Department of Public Health, and I work in Child and Adult Care Food Program.
Hi, I'm Carrie Thielen. I'm with the Department of Education School Nutrition Unit.
So folks who are joining us remotely, can you let us know who you are?
Hi, this is Danielle Bach, Director of Nutrition Services for Greeley-Evans School District 6.
Good morning.
Erica Edwards, and I am with the Colorado School Nutrition Association and with Cherry Creek Schools Student Nutrition.
Thank you. Good morning.
Taylor Washington, I'm with Hunger Free Colorado as the Community Engagement Manager.
Good morning.
Good morning. This is Doug Vega. I'm with Jewish Family Service.
Good morning.
Good morning. This is Chris Taylor with Food Bank of the Rockies.
Hi. Yeah, I think that's great. Thank you very much. So actually, I'm gonna depart a little bit just because we've got some interesting things happening with this group, and I'm gonna ask Carrie, if you don't mind, to give us an update on the work that CDE is doing, as I think that's going to help think about prioritizing and what's coming next. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you to share that update.
Great, thanks. Yes, like Dara mentioned earlier, that we received a planning grant from the Colorado Health Foundation in October to explore Goal 5 of the Blueprint. We realized through a lot of conversations when the Blueprint was released that there were a lot of questions on how to effectively address and implement or address the strategies laid out in Goal 5. So there's a lot of factors by program, as Goal 5 encompasses the National School Lunch Program, the School Breakfast Program, After School Snack Program, Summer Meal Program, Child Health Care Food Program. There are a lot of programs under this goal, and there's also a lot of factors that affect participation access to these programs by program and also at the local level. So we have a good idea of some of those factors at a national level, but we really wanted to explore what's happening in Colorado at a statewide level and at a local level. So our planning grant is really to look at the needs, the gaps, the assets, and opportunities to increase participation and access in these programs. So we'll be implementing a needs assessment to really work with our partners and getting into the community to understand what the factors are affecting these programs and how we should address them. So that will be, the needs assessment will include surveys, key informed interviews, focus groups, a ton of data collection, so we know ultimately what the goal is to create an implementation plan to address Goal 5.
Can you share a little bit, Carrie, about the timing of that, either the sort of information gathering piece or, you know, I think that particularly that piece could really help inform some of this work. And so do you have a sense of the timing for some of the pieces of your process?
Yeah, so we just are hired and are in the about to onboard an evaluator at CDPHE and a project manager who will be leading this. And our first step is to conduct a survey of all food service directors in Colorado to understand their needs, their barriers in operating these programs and opportunities. So from there, that we're hoping that that would be administered in January. We're hoping to develop that over the next month, and we look forward to getting input. And we're excited the work group is starting because we want to get a lot of input on this as we start these data collection activities. And from there, I think once we get those results and we analyze those results, that will direct us into who we need to talk to next, which stakeholders. So we're starting with the food service directors, but then that will take us into what groups we need to talk to. We need to talk to teachers, school administrators, students, parents, partners. So the data collection piece really will likely go through January to March, and then from there we'll start looking at the methods and addressing the what we I lost my train of thought there. From there, once we get all the data collection, then we can start narrowing down and prioritizing how we're going to address these strategies. So, and developing that implementation plan and what resources we need, what partners we need to involve, what funding, and how we're going to sustain this work over the 5 years. So, a big undertaking. It's going to be an evolving process, but we're going to start with that survey in January.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think that's helpful for this group to understand that important information piece is coming together. In some of the other conversations we've had with work groups, there have been questions about, do we know this? And do we know this? And so I think that information can be critical to helping to inform this. So we have listed up here, for folks on the phone again, we will be sure to get your thoughts. You should all have 3 dots in front of you now. And what we'd like you to do is take a chance to again, read through kind of the 7 things that were put forward in terms of advancing our work in child nutrition programs. You get 3 votes for your top 3 priorities. You can use all of those for one if you feel really strongly that that is the thing. You're welcome to put your 3 votes there. You're welcome to distribute your votes. We're doing this to get a sense of the interest of this group, where we might start to dig in a little bit deeper on the how behind some of these pieces if we can, or figure out what else we need in order to start advancing this work. So take a minute or so, read through these, think through what you think your top 3 priorities are. want to get up and stretch and grab some more coffee or a snack, feel free to do that. And once we've got the votes up here, including the votes from our folks who are joining us remotely, then we'll see kind of where things shake out, and we'll do our next steps in the meeting based on what this tells us. So read, vote, grab a snack. We'll get back together as a large group here in just a few minutes. Great.
Hi, this is Courtney. So for the folks on the phone, I just want to make sure that you all have access to or currently can see how we get there, the 7 different strategies. Do you guys have any questions about what we're doing right now?
No, I understand, and I can see it, so it's good.
Okay, great. So if you're in front of your computer, you can either chat it into us what your votes are, or we can audibly get your votes in a few minutes. So just bear with us. Thank you.
I just sent a message over the chat to you. You can let me know on there as well, and I'll be happy to take the vote.
Thank you. Please. Thank you.
We have 5 on the phone. Yeah.
Vegas.
Yeah.
No, we'll just put that on. Cool.
Yeah.
Anybody else on the phone that wanted to add their vote? so you all on the phone can see the voting was announced into the group, but it looks like the number one chosen was increased capacity, collaboration, and coordination of agencies. So that'd be the third one. And then maximize participation, innovation, and effectiveness would be the first one. So those were the two highest votes there.
Thank you.
Yeah, so there's that.
All right. That's fun. All right.
Is there anyone else on the phone that wanted to add their vote? Okay, well, thank you all.
Thank you. So it looks like we have a couple of we have a very clear top two based on the interest and energy of this group. So our activity with the most interest was to increase capacity, collaboration, and coordination of agencies, organizations, and schools for year-round access. And the second was to maximize participation, innovation, and effectiveness by providing TA and support to school districts. So I think given that these two are sort of above and beyond any of the others, what we'd like to spend about the next 40-ish minutes doing, maybe a little bit less than that, is breaking into a couple of groups and starting to think about the how we would move towards that. So I think what we'll do is break out the folks on the phone to do one, and we'll have the folks in the room do the other, and then we'll switch about halfway through so we can gather input on both of these top two from the folks that we have with us today. Given that we've got a nice capacity of folks joining us remotely and a nice group in the room, I think that's the best use of our time for the next 40 minutes. So folks on the phone, I'm going to have you all start with the top vote getter, which is increased capacity, collaboration, and coordination of agencies for year-round access. And what we'll do is the Trailhead folks are going to put you into a discussion room. And what I'd like to have you do is start thinking about the how we're going to move toward that. Are there strategies that we know are in place? Are there resources that we're going to need to bring to the table? Is there other information that we need to have in order to do that? Start thinking about the pieces we want to pull together to really move toward increasing this piece. And for the folks in the room, we're going to do the same thing for maximizing participation through technical assistance and support for school districts. So we'll have the folks on the phone be in a room. We will have you each report out briefly after this. So we're going to take some notes, and is there a way for you guys at Trailhead to be on the phone and take notes? Perfect.
Courtney's going to call in, and we're going to add her to that calendar.
Awesome. So Courtney's going to take notes for the folks on the phone, and I know Michelle is actively typing here in the room for all of us. So let's get to group discussion. I'm going to turn it over to you all, and we're going to start thinking about how we move toward these. Are we separated? I don't want to confuse the. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't worry. Okay. They are now in their own room. So I'm literally turning it over to you guys. I'm happy to help, but want you guys to start thinking about how we move towards it.
Can you post or share the prompts again?
Yeah.
Because there are a couple questions.
Sure. So, what are the active steps? Are there other resources that we need? Is there other information that we need? Are there pieces that are already happening that we want to leverage and build on? again, this is, like, we're at the very beginning of this, and I've shared this with other groups too, we're like, it's a big puzzle right now, and we're trying to just make it just a teeniest bit smaller today. We're not trying to solve it or figure out anyone's to-do list. We're trying to figure out what are some key next steps to move us forward.
Hi, this is Courtney. Can you all hear me? Yes, I can hear you. Okay, hi, everyone.
I mean, we can move these tables closer together if that's easier.
Yeah,
Let's just pull chairs around.
Yes, can you guys hear me? I'm on the line. Yes, Courtney. Yes, I'm on the line. Can you all hear me?
Is there anything happening now
Hi,
in that bucket?
Courtney. Can you guys hear me now?
Or is that,
With our planning grant, this is kind of where we are diving in, is
Yeah.
to see, when we're gonna do a literature review, we've already done some research around what are the factors nationwide, like Carrie said, that affect participation, and so now we're trying, that's part of the first piece is really to dive in, so what are the biggest factors affecting participation in Colorado, and then where do we focus? Once we know that, how do we focus our TA on those areas, or we kind of have thought of it as, maybe we'll come out with like a bucket of strategies. These are the strategies that really affect participation in Colorado, and then as we work with different districts, we tailor it to them and what they need. So one district, it might be financial management, whereas another district, it might be marketing, you know, so I think that, to me, that's kind of, this is where our planning grant is starting to try to dive in and understand where should we focus those efforts. And then I think,
Do you guys sort of have any sort of
thinking through also what are the best ways to provide
any experience in that they want to
district.
notify them this month?
I think a big gap is how do we provide, not just we, but whoever is providing this technical assistance, incorporate more community and other partners as well. Right now, what our office does, we'll just go to the district and we provide the technical assistance to the food service staff.
Yeah,
So how is that become a bigger?
Maybe you could share a little bit like current state, what are the needs that you see as well, what sort of technical assistance you provide, and are there other organizations that are also providing TA?
Yeah. So we provide technical assistance to districts, basically to make sure they're in compliance with the program regulations. That's really been our main focus for several years. And so we'll provide one-on-one or small work group technical assistance focused on their needs. Some of them might need help with writing recipes or planning menus. Some might need help with how they process food and applications. So we tailor it to their needs, and that's been a really effective model.
Is it as needed, or do you like set
So we actually have a USDA grant for this work, and we are targeting districts that have high rates of violations against the regulations. So it's really regulation focused. That's what the purpose of the USDA grant is to reduce error.
Sorry.
This is the new room, right?
Yeah. You can put them all in their own words, though. I've done that before.
I know, it's a great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our technical assistance and our trainings in the past are more focused on regulations and having less issues with the regulations. So that's where we're at now. Right. So I think that's where we'll be moving this work. So that's what we're doing. So there are some other groups, the Colorado Education Initiative, they're changing, in the past they've done technical assistance around wellness and around improving the health of the environment. So not just around nutrition, but around mental health and social activity. Different aspects. And then, so in the Department of Education, there's the Office of Health and Wellness, and they recently got an EDC grant. And so they're also working with 7 districts around that school health piece as well. So that work is going on. That'll be technical assistance. I know Staff Ed, they're doing some work, education, and back from that, PDHS, probably the Staff Ed. But that might be a good link. Yeah, they're doing nutrition education. Hunger free.
There's a lot of outreach and community around the program.
Live well, yeah. Like breaking the barn, farm doors, and scratch food, but yeah, they're going more towards, Chef Foundation, they're more nationwide, but they also work with Colorado.
There are a lot of farm to school organizations too.
So the children's campaign for the last year and a half or so, the organizations who listed and some who aren't typically seen in the food space, they're more organizing groups, advocacy groups, specifically around the second strategy that's listed for expanding the funding costs that reduce by some copay. And then there's update on their strategy.
I am here taking
one of the issues that
and sorry, was that Erica?
in terms of participation has been around
Taylor, okay.
So we're going to be working on a policy brief on that. And then something to consider as a hired evaluator and a person that's been working on survey is the related to this, but Smart Stores kind of asked a few questions that are specific to time of need and access. So just plugging into resources that already exist and to the Health of Colorado survey. So those are a few sections.
That, I'm glad you brought that up. So in our development now, survey, one of our first steps is gathering all the data that already exists, the data that we have, and then trying to work with partners and but if there's any other data sources, I'm not sure if there's some of you guys too that we plan as well. But we're trying to just see what information we already have, look at that, so we're not, if we already have it, then we don't need to gather that information on the survey. So that is, I think, we're working on. So if there's any other data sources, I'm not sure hunger free.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of one of our next steps.
Okay, this has been a really great
start collecting.
So,
we have some of it in bits and pieces, but I don't think we have the full picture of what people are currently collecting.
So just one thing to keep in mind as another barriers that are health initiated large initiative access and we just we're closing out it came out of our healthy living work barriers that we're going with other communities or other going forward it will be we're talking about a lot more areas the health initiative behavioral health resilience currently, we are funding and have funding, like, I think we're now into more than half of the developing comprehensive health and wellness. So they're sort of collecting that district level and then that school health improvement. Then on top of that, we're supporting a cohort like statewide and regional organizations to develop a coordinated system of professional development support, specifically around physical activity and nutrition. So you've already referenced the ones that are more nutrition focused, chef and et cetera. But as part of that work, maybe technical strategy that can be hard for schools to navigate as lots of providers like go with what's the right path. So that's a way for teachers to be able to match their needs to support the real area. So definitely just
So it's not allowing Edwards to join the breakout room,
Oh,
so,
great.
I think we have the video in here and just use the mic.
Oh, there you go.
It's you all, that's okay?
Yes, great.
All right.
I guess one question I would have, I'm not familiar with this area, are there things that have prevented the technical assistance support from happening in the past? Is it a past issue or state? I mean, like, you know, as we want to do more of this, what's kept us from doing more of this in the past? Might be my question, as we think about how we can do differently moving forward, and I, not my introduction. Maybe that's not a relevant question.
No, that's a great
How about
question.
maybe like, if you want to do more, why haven't we done more?
For our organization, and focus, so most of our administrative funding is to insurance programs.
Got it.
So that's kind of been and that's kind of shifting a little bit, we don't have any, we've had new regulations almost every year, there's something new, and so that's been a big focus of those, and making sure everyone is following them. Currently, the regulations have stabilized a little bit, and so I think we do have a little bit, we have more capacity to move that way, but a lot of it is staffing. People to do all of the things that we have to do. So we did get back to the USD grant that I mentioned to do more effective teams because we didn't have staffing as much as we wanted. And we're a big diverse team, so traveling all over, and also trying to provide it in a smaller setting where we can actually tailor it. It just takes more capacity, more staff. But that has proven to be effective. Huge model over more of a regional, big group.
Yeah, and,
that we can tailor it.
this is something that has, can I ask a follow-up question for all of the work groups? It's kind of like a similar thing as got focus from really hard regulatory efforts, right? I know how schools you have violations silos, put that to something that's about outcomes or how schools really can improve wellness. What would that, how would that change the work? Like, what would that, how would that look done different? Because there's regulations are there for a reason, and we want the schools to comply with at least that low bar, right? Or whatever that bar is. But how would it look different? We are working on it, we'll be soliciting input.
So we actually really currently are kind of flipping that to focus on access and participation. Compliance will always be like an opportunity
that, other things we work through as well is that,
review the schools, and so we have to teach compliance and to get them ready for a successful full review. But I think we're amidst that change, and I think it changes the focus of our training, the focus of our technical systems.
Is there anything else that you all want?
I think it's changing the focus of our communication. So
Barriers, solutions.
I think it changes it quite a bit. We did actually, our group did a strategic thinking, our planning session, and we came out with kind of the big focus areas for the upcoming years of participation, access, and compliance, and how do we do all three of those within training, within marketing, within outreach. So we're amidst that shift. I think it does change. It changes a lot because I think in the past our focus has just been compliance. So you look at our technical assistance, you look at our training, you look at everything we're doing, and that's the focus. So by broadening that, I think it changes. It does change, what we're training on or what we're. Does that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I would add to that. I think what would need to change too is have more data and evaluation so we could look at outcomes. And that's something we've really been focusing on now, this is kind of the beginning with our planning grant, is increasing our capacity to start diving into the data and identifying what data we need to really start understanding these issues. So I think it's historically, since the focus is largely regulatory, we track violations and we're not necessarily making some of the connections between the other factors and participation. So I think we would need to increase our ability to use data and evaluation more within our work if we turned more outcomes.
Yeah, that was the bucket
Yeah.
we're getting.
I know. And has that been changed sort of the nature of the relationship between you all, like coming in and trying to say like, this is where you messed up on your violations, how can this partner?
Yeah.
And I think we already, with the way we provide technical assistance in these small work groups, we do approach it as, you know, how can we help you improve your program, but it's more help you improve your program so you're compliant, not help you improve your program so you're better serving the community.
Yeah, I'm also really excited to see how far the survey goes, because I feel like the other voice that we don't hear as often, but we should, are the student voices. And so earlier this year, we did a student survey just specifically around school lunches to understand if our policy was like something that was going to be helpful and beneficial to kids. And some of the feedback that we got was around time to eat, but then also the quality of the food. And so just curious to see like what their thoughts and perceptions are about what would be like the lever to increase participation from their perspective. So really excited to see what information I'll get from that survey.
And we imagine meal quality will be something that comes out of it. We don't know, but I would be surprised if meal quality isn't a focus.
How did that
Would you
go?
be able to see those?
Sure.
That survey and those results?
Sure. Or how did you guys do that survey?
So we have a couple of student groups that I guess it's more focused on organizing groups as part of the Lunch Cabinet Coalition. So we have folks like Padres, Young Aspiring Americans for Social and Political Activism, otherwise known as YASA, Students for Education Reform. So there's some just ed-specific groups that have kind of those connections with students, and so that's how we kind of solicited responses to the survey. I'm happy to share it with you.
And that might, if we do employment interviews or focus groups with students, potentially happen to those groups. We also have there's some CDE units that have student groups, but I'm just thinking about the reach that FRCA has.
I know.
Right?
Okay, yeah, I would love to hear. Yeah, I think definitely they can, as they're planning on like how to bring the community voice into some of those. I think it's been nice to see that, you know, schools are kind of focusing what technical assistance do we need to from these violations to meet to the standards, to kind of see how the shift is going to be more of like, what do parents want in our school, what do students want, and then designing or asking for that type of TA. And I think FRCAs have a really good reach of already having, family, like groups that they can be tapped into for information. A lot of them majority of them have a food bank services that understand the needs of their community. They also, a lot of them are accessing, food programs because after school, the school doesn't offer it, or the reach is not that high, and so families go a lot. I would assume that they see a family resource center as more they can go and connect and get food that I need, which is the school. Right? I don't think a lot of parents see, they don't see that the school is a place that they're providing, it's responsible for providing nutritious food for their kids. It's kind of like education separate than nutrition. So how do we bring them together to work in the community to say, family resource centers, educate families around, you need to advocate at your school, you need to be involved, and how do we promote that at the school, because it benefits the whole community. So I would definitely want to be, how do we bring family resource center services information that they might already have, or information that we might already have from our data collection. I think that's why this family resource center is really valuable. And we have a few that are part of the school district. So again, they might have even more rich information
or just do partnership and collaborations and how it works with some of those student security pieces. So, yeah, that's my brain was kind of going up. And to find information from what they think is in their community and their school district needs.
Are there family resource centers in every school district?
No, they do collaborate a lot with their school districts, but there's only a couple who are in the school district, like they're embedded in the school district.
But are they in every community?
We are not in every community.
Okay.
We are statewide, but
Okay.
we do have areas where we know that there is not a family resource center, or there is an agency that's similar to, the work of a family resource center. So that's one of the things that we're working at the association is how do we expand, our reach in the areas that we know there is a need and there is not currently one. So I would say we have a total of 30 family resource centers spread throughout the state, but there is definitely areas where we're not.
Do you have a map that shows?
Yes, we do. We can provide that. We can share that to
great.
so you can see where we are and then kind of connect. Because I think it will be a really easy way to survey our members and say, hey, who's already collaborating with their school districts, and then as this work moves forward, how do we then kind of have those organizations and their community working together? So I can definitely put that in and share that map.
That would be great.
Do you have a formal process for surveying already that we could have a few of you there?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah, we don't have like a standardized template. Here's how we get the information from the centers, but I think we would definitely need to either survey them, and then kind of share that information with the work group. I don't think there's anything fantastic already like standing that we currently have, so we can definitely just, I think, with having survey centers to email and like, hey, we're just wondering as this work moves forward.
I didn't know if there was like you guys twice a year we can tap into some sort of infrastructure that's already in place.
Yeah, we do. Another place that I was also thinking was that we convene as part of membership. We convene all of our members quarterly technically. So our next one is ours in November. Our next one's going to be in March. So we convene all of them, and we always have kind of like a way of how do we increase capacity and understand what the needs are of our members. So they're in person, yes. So our next one's going to be it's going to be Red Rock. So it'll be kind of in the local area, and we have usually every representative from our members attend, and we always bring kind of maybe there's something we can bring in and tap into some of if there's already an initiative or a goal that we're a strategy that we're trying to move forward and we want info, that's a place that we can definitely tap into. So as this moves forward, we might be able to kind of plan before we say the next one? March. It's going to be March, I think 13th through the 15th.
I just wanted to try and check because I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about other topics together. So just, if there's anything else you want to talk about in terms of this, let's do that, and then let's move to the round.
I guess maybe this is kind of the other one, but I guess the other piece is working with CDPH, sorry, trying not to use all these acronyms, Department of Public Health and Environment, Child Health Food Program. We're already trying to find some way to provide cross promotion of programs. So us identifying when a school might benefit from
And I know that's the survey that you guys will be kind of, or the way we're going to try to gather all this information to increase participation. Has there any, I'm assuming you guys already know this, but like, is there anything already aside from the student-led kind of survey that was done? Is there anything else that has been done around like surveying parents? That we know?
I could ask, but I'm not
not that I know.
I feel like that might be a follow on.
Yeah.
So you're surveying parents?
Yeah, like if they're already surveying parents, I think about how what kind of programs we offer. Like, I don't think there's ever been, but again, it might vary from district to district, but I think it's just as something that is, I know you guys probably are thinking about doing that, but I think it's important. So I parents don't even know what's offered. Like, I know that I have to pay for lunch because my kids don't qualify for the lunch. So, but that's all I know.
Yeah. So, there is an organization, Action for Healthy Care.
Yeah. Are they on any of the work groups?
What?
Are they on any of the work groups?
Action for Healthy Care, Carol Muller runs it, they're a healthy school grant team, but they do a lot of things. So they do a lot of work, but what we come in to do is specifically around, sort of tapping into the parent community and sort of activating parent groups to, kind of be advocates for kind of health activities that are happening in the school. PTA, yeah, oral PTA. Yeah, there's another.
Yeah. The student one, like the parent one and the student one. Yeah.
But yeah, so they make me Carol might be, and I'm actually going to be reaching out to her from the health and safety board. So I think so.
Yeah.
All right, so let's transition to, increased capacity, collaboration, and coordination. Everyone, make sure fully your access to health information.
I think I thought of when you were, as part of the planning grant is to do a community asset map. And so understanding what resources are available in each community, since we're, we interact with our main stakeholders, the food service director. So what sort of resources like the Family Resource Center, other organizations that are providing services and reaching these important groups that we want to talk with. And the other thing too is really understanding the need in the community. So sometimes we can look at a community and say, okay, they're not running the summer meal program, there's a gap there, but actually another organization might be providing meals. So really looking at what exists in the community level. So I thought I'd throw that out there too, because something like mapping out family resource centers, like what organizations are at the ground level working with the school district.
And I was just thinking, because I know our data manager person who loves to do maps, and he just recently did one where he kind of put all the family resource centers and their outreach that they do. Again, they might not be serving their community, but they're doing more of an outreach. And then he overlays kind of like the KIPS count data and then the census data, and kind of see where there is needs and gaps, or just for our own kind of like areas that we want to maybe go and see if there's an organization that wants to be kind of, and we're trying to pilot that. But that would be another thing that maybe we can look at, how we can overlay some of the other information that we might already have around where the gaps in the needs might be, and then seeing if there's some cross kind of overlap there that we can kind of tap into with other organizations too, who might be doing kind of work around nutrition or food security. So I'm kind of excited to reach out to them. I mean, I guess the way he explained that map was like we can kind of anybody's kind of priorities or goals, we can kind of overlay them into that map and say, oh, look, we can connect, we cross-connect here. Maybe we should be talking and sitting at the same table. So I'm interested to see around this and kind of overlay that map and then sharing that and see if that would be a good.
Yeah, that's I think that that addresses that coordination. So how do we coordinate all this and maximize the assets of the community? Which,
Yeah, I think that's fine. And I was going to suggest to you that you all seem to table they're on this call. That's good.
Yeah.
We'll be able to get to know each other. Priorities. I was going to think about something you had a map. Sure, that say like that's the one that was, which was insurance.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
Yeah, you can put your address in, summer meals, whatever, or you can put your address in, and it'll show you what summer programs are around.
Yeah, we
do that. We work with them every summer on early childhood.
This will Colorado, like if they had a map of where they are really doing initiatives, ensuring.
Yeah, that's what we were thinking, like overlaying all the different ones and even looking at some of the, maybe high need of maybe looking at framework use percentages and just looking at some of the different, so we can focus our efforts. Yeah.
That's part of the scope of the
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you bring in that map.
Yeah.
If I can just be like, that's this map on there. Like, I don't know if you'll be able to do that. In my understanding of how that is. But I think I'm going to start, and maybe from the notes, you can see if anybody has a map already of like where there is some of that. So I'll look up at the Henry really well.
Well, I think that's a big piece of this collaboration is kind of putting all the data together too, instead of just we have what we have and everyone's just looking at it in their silo, is kind of combining all of that data and then knowing what we're missing, but combining it all to just have that forward picture. I think the data piece will be huge in the collaboration.
And I'm visual, so I think having the map, like, and like disease, that if we can kind of like pull away some of those layers and be like,
you could select,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking about the increased capacity collaboration and coordination and access to health. Okay, well, so, yeah, I mean, what we do have, I have sort of a list of where, a list of all the districts that we can grant to, So that's, those are groups that have come together, students, parents, teachers. If you are talking, we can't hear you, maybe you are talking, and then we've done a lot of funding in school time, and it's been really focused on physical activity, but we're learning about out of school setting. Yeah.
And I also think about like the school-based centers and more comprehensive information you have other social determinants.
Anybody have any thoughts about childcare settings?
So that's me.
That was just like one that also gets short trips, but.
Yes, so we are focusing a lot on outreach with childcare centers and with CDE and school nutrition directors. Do you have a specific question about?
Well, just what kinds of gaps or barriers you see to what you all are already trying to do in terms of this, all within that construct of collaboration.
Yeah, so what I think some of the barriers might be is childcare centers maybe not knowing about our program. We have collaborated with CDHS, Office of Early Childhood, to share that information out. And most recently, Tri-County Health Department. I joined the team last January, so I'm still learning about all the stakeholders out there and from school. Yeah, I came from school. I was a school nutrition director. But CACFP is a complicated USDA program, and I think sometimes in child care center, because you have so many regulations to understand and comply with on the child care side, when you add in a nutrition program and you have to offer whole grain rich items, and you may not understand or know how to read a recipe or a label, it's very complicated. And I'm a registered dietitian, and there are times I'm even in the school lunch program,
So I think that's one barrier. We recently conducted focus groups in Aurora. There's several child care centers, and we met with the staff that actually conduct the work with both CACFP and child care, and just asked them what makes it so difficult, what kind of resources would be helpful. I have a meeting next week to learn more about what was said in those focus groups, and then we'll determine next steps, how to move forward on what would be helpful. But I think that's one of the biggest barriers.
I also think the settings are just different, right? Like you have district-run preschools who are held to different standards than other type of providers, and so I don't know if that's a super easy question to answer, but I think there's just different requirements around what they're supposed to provide.
Yeah,
That's challenging as well.
Yeah, it's very complicated. But we are continuing to outreach, and even in districts, they may have a before and after school program. And so we are talking to school nutrition directors about an opportunity, if it makes sense, to offer supper after school or even a snack. So yeah, more to come on outreach.
Well, I make sure Erica has a chance to chime in if she would like to. I know it's hard to be a remote person. So, Erica, I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to add to the conversation around programs and collaboration.
The sort of health side of this, do you have any comments about?
It would come to that, like, so.
Of this team, I think the economy part, something that came up.
No, I just reached out to her to ask.
Yesterday is really kind of ensuring that, all right, I just want to make sure you didn't change. Just trying to.
She did say earlier she could hear the people in the room, so I think.
Okay, all right. Feedback on that point.
So we've been talking with Naomi, and then we were just talking to about the 4-day school week as kind of an area to work, collaborate potentially with the ACSP or other organizations that could potentially see kids on that 5th day. I know you guys have worked with Brighton, and there's different areas.
Yeah, there's, out in the, I don't know, Brighton 27J did try CACFP with their 4-day school week. What that looks like is the 4 days that they have at school, they operate school lunch programs. But on that 5th day, because there's no school, they can't offer the school lunch program. They can offer CACFP. So what they discovered in Brighton, that they offered 2 CACFP programs, and parents did not utilize the program. They are making an assumption that parents found alternate childcare somewhere else, and they're just, there's maybe 10 kids attending childcare. So not as much success yet in 27J, but we're hoping, future opportunities will arise. In the rural,
with Pueblo at all?
yes. Are you talking about Pueblo 60 and 70?
Now on 4-day school week.
70 does not participate on our program. 60 does. And in addition to that, 5th day, she is offering meals at libraries. Most recently, she found a museum where kids go after school.
And she was CACFP at the museum.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So anyway, she has, she's very creative in finding ways to feed kids outside of the school day. Jill, Pueblo 60.
Okay, what's her role there?
She's a school nutrition director.
Okay, so that's typically who you guys work with? Okay.
I thought she used it on the 5th day.
I actually wasn't sure.
clarify that fifth day, but she has several programs. Let's clarify that fifth day.
Okay, great, thank you.
Um,
Leave in a few minutes, we will be, yeah, so we get back, you know.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure, is there anything
And
else?
one thing to add with the coordination aspect, for each of the work groups, we're putting together like a Google form online where you can submit one activity that your organization is doing. So that could be a project, a resource, a tool, a calculator, a data reading, a marketing campaign. And so what we're trying to do is create like a central database for each work group of the resources that exist. And then that could be in a list form. It sounds like a map could be more helpful to explore later, in that format. And then we'd like to all of you access to all the work group resources and find it in a way that's sort of relevant to target population or region or, you know, the type of resource that it is. Do you all think that would be helpful? You could submit on behalf of your organization. If you know an organization that's not at the table, you can submit on behalf of as well. So, just one thing that we're starting to do is to triangulate together all this information.
Is there a way to solicit feedback on if there's something we want to share with the group and get, if we're looking at some of the data and analyzing the data, things like that? That
Yeah,
might be able
getting
to
like
utilize the group.
consultation or something like that.
Discussion board. Yeah, something like that where.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We don't have anything right now, but I think, you know, we're just starting, so I think that would be an excellent.
Kind of like if we put the map up there, everyone kind of could provide feedback on what are the things we need to
subscribe to it, so if you put something on the discussion board, I think, well, they're just basing on what you want, and ideally someone will get it down and go in the beginning, right, of their conversation.
Great, well, I think we'll wrap up and bring everybody back together.
Okay.
Just do a few housekeeping things and then we'll look at our time.
Yep, you got it. Hey, Kevin.
Actually, when we had to, I realized I didn't know, I wasn't surprised. How I just did it.
Well, thank you all for the good discussion. I know we've got lots of notes that we're gonna, take a chance to look at, to, condense a little bit, get back to you. We're gonna take some time sort of synthesizing the discussions and bringing together the themes that have come up, from these two. This isn't to say that we aren't going to do the other things. We just wanted a place to start and sort of see where there was momentum, and I feel like we've, identified a couple of things that we can, start moving forward pretty quickly. So, between now and next meeting, so before you, leave today, if you're in the room or if you're on the phone, we'd like to get, from you the information sheet about how it's best to be in touch with you, your contact information. If we can provide support that makes these meetings accessible to you, we want to know what that looks like. So if you're here, you can give those to us today. If you're online, you can give that information to via email. We will, Michelle's been doing a great job of turning these notes around really quickly, so we should have summaries out to this group and also posted on all of our other sites, so other folks can see these meeting notes here really shortly. So between now and the next time we get together, what we'd like for you to do is take a chance to read through those notes, kind of start thinking and synthesizing within your own work and with what the groups that you work part of said and thought about today. So thinking about opportunities and places where there's some synergy that already exists. The other thing I hope you'll think about between now and the next meeting is the leadership opportunity for the work group, so the chair or co-chair position that either you might be interested in or you have someone that you would like to nominate for that role. The next meeting, we'd like to secure that if we can. So think about that between now and then. The other piece we're going to be doing is coordinating a sort of standing meeting time for this group. So you'll receive another poll to kind of get your availability against. We can get those set for the next several months and really get those on folks' calendars. So we are going to continue to use Doodle. I've been trying to find if there's a better tool or another way to do that. And every time I ask, people just say that seems to be the one we have for now. So that's what you'll be receiving and getting a chance to look at, so we can get these next conversations scheduled. Anything else on Skype? Yeah, so I want to make a point of clarification because I think I misinformed my group on the phone. So I thought that we were going to have time to report back out, which it looks like we do not at this point. So just to clarify, we are going to be synthesizing the notes from the conversations, and so that will be included in Michelle's meeting notes. So you all will have the opportunity to look and see what was discussed with the other groups through that. Yeah. Sorry about that. I did say we would report out, and now we have not very much time to do that. So that was my fault. That's facilitator. But we'll get you the notes and you can also look at that. Are there any other comments or thoughts from the group today that we want to share before we disperse and go on with the rest of our day?
I apologize if you addressed this earlier, but if there are folks that are interested in joining the work group, what does that process look like? Or
they just need to get in touch with Courtney. But we are happy to add folks to this group. Trailhead is doing a great job of keeping our list and communication information so that we can make sure folks know about the next meeting, can be part of the scheduling polls, all those pieces. Yeah, great.
Do we already have access to the shared Google Drive? I think it was provided, but okay, I might need it.
Yeah, and I'll send that out in the follow-up email too. And that may not be the best way that we decide that you all want to store your meeting materials, but yeah, you do have access. The other thing, I know Kevin mentioned it to the group in the room, and I want to make sure that Courtney probably did to the folks on the phone as well. We are going to do our best to gather the great work that's already happening through some technology tools so that we can put together the work that's happening around the city. Okay? We feel like that'll be important as we think about the opportunities and moving the work forward to try to understand as much as we can, knowing that this is a fluid process. All the great things that are happening. So when you get that tool, if you would take, we hope it'll be a 5-minute sort of input to help us understand the work that your organization is doing and that you know about that's happening in communities so that we can aggregate that in a place that will be helpful to these groups. So keep an eye out for that as well.
And then the last thing I'll add is that we do have evaluation forms that we'd like to receive your feedback on how the meeting went, anything that you'd like to add. So please stick around to fill those out. If you have to leave, we'll be providing an electronic version as well. So we could get that, the information sheet, the W-9 if you'd like to be compensated. If you'd like to receive a Visa gift card, please stick around because Courtney does have those on hand here.
Great. Thank you all. This was a great discussion. I think we've got some really exciting things to move forward on. So thank you for your time this morning. We appreciate it very much, and we will be in touch really soon with follow-up and time for our next meeting. Great. Thanks. Have a great afternoon.
I think I just wanted to back from my